The rain hammered against the tin roof of the small apartment the night Marcus Webb realized he had exactly $43 left in the world, and his daughter needed a $2,000 surgery by Friday or she would never walk again. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the hospital letter until the words blurred, while in the next room his 8-year-old daughter, Odessa, slept peacefully, unaware that her father's hands were shaking, unaware that the man who had promised her mother on her deathbed that he would always take care of their little girl was now staring into an abyss he saw no way out of. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the quiet power of hope and wisdom, hit that like button right now, drop a comment telling me you're watching, share this with someone who needs it today, and subscribe to the channel, because this story is about to show you exactly what a father's love can do when everything else has failed. Marcus hadn't always been poor. 3 years earlier, he'd run a modest but steady auto repair shop on the edge of town, the kind of place where everyone knew his name and trusted his word. Then his wife, Odessa's mother, was diagnosed with an aggressive illness that drained their savings faster than he could earn it back. When she passed, Marcus buried more than his wife that day. He buried the life he thought he'd have. The shop closed 6 months later when he could no longer afford the lease, and Marcus found himself doing whatever work he could find, day labor, dishwashing, anything that put food on the table for the daughter who was now his entire universe. Odessa was born with a condition in her hip that had worsened slowly over the years, something the doctors said could be corrected with a single surgery if caught in time. Time, it turned out, was the one thing money could buy and Marcus didn't have. He tried everything. He asked his old customers, most of whom offered sympathy but little else. He applied for loans and was turned away because a man with no steady income was, in the eyes of a bank, not worth the risk. He sold his wedding ring, his tools, even the old truck he used to get to job sites, walking miles instead just so he could add a few more dollars to the envelope hidden beneath a floorboard in Odessa's room. Every night, after tucking her in, he would sit outside her door and listen to her breathing, promising himself he would find a way, even as the walls of possibility closed in around him. 3 days before the surgery deadline, Marcus took a job nobody else wanted, cleaning out the storage unit of an elderly widow named Colette Ashworth who lived on the wealthy side of town. It was backbreaking work for barely any pay, but he needed every dollar. As he hauled boxes of old furniture and forgotten belongings, he found himself talking to Colette, who sat in her wheelchair by the doorway, watching him work with sharp, curious eyes. She asked him questions, simple ones at first, about his day, his family, and Marcus, exhausted and worn thin from carrying a burden too heavy for one man, found himself telling her everything. He hadn't meant to. The words simply poured out of him, about his wife, about Odessa's hip, about the surgery he couldn't afford, about the shame of feeling like he was failing the one person he loved most in this world. He expected pity, or worse, indifference. Instead, Colette listened in silence, her weathered hands folded in her lap, until he finished. She told him a story of her own, about a husband who had built their fortune from nothing, and a promise she'd made to him before he died, that she would use their wealth to help someone who truly needed it, not out of charity, but out of recognition of a good heart working an impossible situation. She said she had been waiting years to find the right person, and watching Marcus that afternoon, refusing to complain, working with quiet dignity even as exhaustion clearly weighed on him, she believed she had finally found him. Marcus assumed she was simply being kind, offering words to comfort a desperate man. He didn't dare hope for more. But the next morning, a car pulled up outside his apartment, and a representative from Colette's family foundation stepped out, carrying an envelope. Inside was a check covering not only Odessa's surgery, but a fund for her continued care, along with a letter from Colette herself, explaining that some debts in life aren't meant to be repaid, only passed forward. Marcus stood on the sidewalk holding that letter, and for the first time in 3 years, he allowed himself to cry, not from grief, but from a relief so overwhelming it nearly brought him to his knees. The surgery was a success. Odessa woke up in the recovery room to find her father sitting beside her bed, and when she asked him why he looked like he'd been crying, he simply smiled and told her that sometimes, when you give everything you have for someone you love, the world finds a way to give something back. Today, Odessa runs. She runs across playgrounds, she runs into her father's arms after school, she runs simply because she can, and every step she takes is a quiet miracle neither of them takes for granted. Marcus eventually reopened a small repair shop, this time with Colette as a silent partner and, in time, a dear friend who became like family to them both. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that hope is never truly lost. Before we go, drop a comment with the word hope if you believe that love like Marcus's still exists in this world. Some fathers give everything so their children can simply stand, and walk, and run, and in that sacrifice, they teach us that love was never meant to be measured by what we have, but by what we're willing to give.